Okay, it's a nice rainy day here in England, and it's about time I made this video. So today I'm going to show you how to make a basic scalar device. So these are the things you will need in front of you, and the most important thing is the wire. Okay, so you want to have a wire that's quite long. The longer the wire, the more bends and coils you can make into it, and the stronger the field. Okay, so let's see if I can get this in focus. So for this wire here, you want a coated wire, so you want the wire to be insulated. If it's exposed, it won't work. Okay, the other thing you want with your wire is that you want to be able to bend it. So let's try and bend this out. Dropped it. So you want to be able to bend it. And when you let go, ideally, it shouldn't bend back. So this is bending back slowly, as you can see. So it's not the most ideal wire, but it will work for the purposes of this video. So more of a waxy type plastic you want, so that it stays in place and it doesn't bend back. Okay. And then to bend the wire into the coil that we're going to make, you will at least need a pair of pliers so that we can twist the wire. And obviously this has a pair of cutters on there as well, if we ever need to cut. But you can also use a drill to speed up the process. If you do have a battery-powered or plug-in drill, then you can actually speed up the process of twisting the wire. And then what we're going to use here to connect our wire to other wires is we're going to use these very basic plastic connectors. So you can see here, if I show up close, there's little screws in there. And when you twist the screws, the screws on the inside here press against the wire, so the wire presses against the metal inside there, look. And it's an easy way of connecting wires together without needing solder. And then obviously we have a screwdriver to help do that. And we have a basic knife, a sharp knife to cut open the wire, so to expose the wire. And then some plastic tape, so typical tape that you would find in an electrician store, just to hold things in place. Or of course you can use glue. We're not going to use glue today. And then there's many things you can put this wire that we're about to twist around. So for today we're going to use a basic glass jar. But of course, at a later date, I might show you how you can put the coil around other things, like crystals, for example, to change the way the scalar field works. But you can get very effective scalar field just from using a glass jar. And then the last thing, which is what we're going to connect this wire to, is to a basic headphone wire. Okay, so I've already cut the end off here. It's going to have to focus again. There it is. So I've already cut the end off there. So it's a basic headphone thing there. So you can connect the coil to a mobile phone or an MP3 player so that you can play lots of different frequencies through the wire. Okay, so the first step is to grab hold of your wire and get the two ends. And then when you pull it straight, you can find the center point of the wire, and you put the center point around a nail or a door handle that you can easily take it off afterwards, because when we twist the wire, if it's not something that you can take it off, then the wire's going to be trapped. Okay, so make sure you put it around a handle or something where you can take the wire off easily later. And then as you stand back, and you pull the wire nice and tight. Okay, so we've got the two ends of the wire here. And what we're going to do is put a pair of pliers around this end, and then we're going to twist it counterclockwise. Okay. So here I'm just illustrating that I'm using a pair of pliers to twist the wire slowly counterclockwise. Okay. And the key thing here is to keep pulling on the wire, so the wire has got tension. Because if there's no tension, then the wire won't twist evenly. And what you can do to save time here is you can actually use a pair of an electric drill to speed up the process and do it very, very quickly. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do in a second, just to speed things up. But as you can see with time, that you can slowly do this yourself, just with a pair of pliers. Okay, so here we have the other example. So I've stuck the wire into the end of the drill bit here, nice and tight so it doesn't come out. And then we make sure that it is spinning counterclockwise. And then we just simply, again, maintain tension and do it counterclockwise. And you can see it slowly builds up a twist in the wire, if I can get that in focus. There. So you can see it's starting to twist the wire a bit like DNA. Okay, and then we twist it. And you can see it's very hard to get this in focus here. So I'm showing you the very messy room here. So you can see the coils start to twist more and more and more and more. We're at a phase where we've got nearly 45-degree angle. It's incredibly hard to get it in focus here. Okay. There we go. So you can see it's almost like a 45-degree angle with the twists on the coil. So we're just going to do it a little bit more now. Okay, so this is the wire we have ended up with. This was the part that went around the door handle. Okay, so it's important to have this loop. And here's the other end. So you can see naturally because the wire isn't that waxy type of plastic that stays in place, it has unwinded quite a bit. But this still works very nicely for forming a scalar field. So the whole idea is that you pass energy through one wire. It goes all the way along the coil, around one way, all the way up to the loop, and then the electricity passes around the loop and then goes back the other way. So the idea is that you got electricity going in two different directions, coiling around each other. So two electromagnetic fields in equal and opposite directions, and therefore it cancels out, creating a 0-point field, otherwise known as a scalar field. Interesting, huh? So DNA is a bit like this, and the way the heart is designed creates a scalar field quite nicely because of this equal and opposite electromagnetic field. So that's the basis for the coil that we're going to make. Okay, so we're on to the next stage now. So we've got our glass bottle, and we've just used a bit of tape to hold the one end of the wire onto the glass to help us make it more easily on the next stage. So let's start creating our mobius coil, as they call it. So we take the wire around the bottle and we leave it a little bit loose. And then what we do is we take the loop here, the end of the wire, and we pass it underneath the other one. Let's pull the whole thing through. So we leave it a little bit loose. And then with our second pass through, we put the wire around again. And then as we come over the top of the other one here, we come under. Let's get the other end of the wire again. We come under the first wire that we did earlier. And we just pull it through again. So you can see it gets a bit tangled sometimes. So there we go. Okay, so there's our second pass through. And that's come away a little bit, isn't it, on the last run? Okay. So it's not very pretty looking. And then you can, of course, do it again. Bring it round, and then that would go underneath there again. So let's bring the other end of the wire. And again, we pass it underneath all of the wires. It's starting to get a bit tighter now. If I can pull it through. There we go. And again, pull it through. I've done it a bit too tight by the looks of it. There we go. Again, just pull it through, hold that in place there, and pull through. Okay. So what you will see is that each wire passes over the top and then underneath the original wire. And then what you can do is, once it gets quite tight, is you can hold that in place with glue or with tape, and then you can go up higher, up here, and then you can start to create your second pass through. So a second round, so you bring the wire over the top there, and then it goes underneath that one there. So you can see the wire has gone over the top of the original wire there. I hope I've got this on camera okay. Okay. And then we go around again above the other wire, and then we go underneath the other two wires here. So again, pass it underneath the other two wires. Get it underneath. There we go. And there we go. So we've got that wire that we just brought above the other two wires. So it's above the other two wires, and then it goes underneath the other two wires, and then out the other end, and then round again above the other two wires, and then it goes underneath. So you cross over here again, and then go underneath all the other wires again. So passing it through here. Again, it's starting to get a bit tight again. There we go. There we go, hold it in place. So yet again, that last wire I just passed through is above all the other wires, and then we cross over here underneath all of the wires, and then it comes out the other end here, and then if we had more space we would go round again above the other wires. Okay, so we can keep doing that, creating more of these coils like this. So if this is confusing to you, you can just simply wrap it round, you know, like this, without passing it over, and it would still work, and it would still create a very powerful field without it being overly complex. Okay, so I'm just going to finish off this last bit here. So here we have our finished product. So with the last coil, the tip of the coil, I just tucked it underneath one of the layers here. So as you can see, when it's finished, you have lots of coils, one above the other, and then they cross over the one below, underneath all of the coils, and then come above again. So you end up with this strange pattern. It's not the prettiest. There are people who've made this prettier, but that's basically it. And like I say, it doesn't need to pass over and under like I showed you. If you just want to wrap it around the bottle without doing it in knots like I've done, then that works just as well. Because it still creates an equal and opposite field just by wrapping it around the bottle. So that's the finished wrap. And then what we're going to do with this end bit here is connect it to our headphone wire. Okay, so we're going to connect this wire here, these end bits here, to those end bits there. Okay, using these. Okay. Okay, so with these things here, you'll notice it's got quite thin plastic in the middle here, so you can literally just snap these off. Usually a pair of pliers can do it, or a pair of cutters. So you can literally break off individual ones like that. But ideally let's try and break off two together. We can. They only want to go off one by one, but that's fine. Not a problem. Okay. So the next thing is to expose the metal of the wires. So I already did mine earlier, so I scored around the plastic here and then pulled off the plastic to expose the metal part of the wire, and then I've just simply twisted it like that to keep these wires together. Same on this one here, just twisting it. Doesn't matter which direction. And then these wires now are ready to go into the ends of these things. Okay, so the wire will go in here, and then you will use the screw at the top there to secure this piece of wire inside. Okay, so you'll put it on like that. Okay, so in the wire goes into the little hole. And you want obviously this piece of wire here long enough to make sure it will get screwed inside, and the little screw in there. So I'll just show you how that works. Okay, so if we get that in focus, when we screw that down, you can see the screw starting to go deeper and deeper in, so you can start to see how the wire will get wedged in there and held nice and tightly. Okay, so let's unscrew that again. And let's put the wire in. And then we just screw the wire in. And we keep going until we know that the wire is nice and secure in there. There we go, starting to get nice and tight now. There we go. And then hopefully you can see, if we look down the other end, that wire is nice and tight in there. Okay, and then if I pull it, it's not coming loose, so I know that that piece of metal inside is connected. And then what we do, the next stage is to, I'm going to need to cut this down a bit more, is take the one end of the microphone wire, the headphone wire, sorry, and then connect it into here, and then the other end into the other wire. So let's do the other wire first. Let's do this nice and quickly. Okay, so I've just scored around this wire. Come on, come into focus please. There we go. So I've just cut around the wire there, and now I'm pulling off the rubber sheath. Again, it's not in focus. There we go. And we're just pulling the sheath off there to expose the wires. Okay. Okay, so once you take the sheath off the headphone wire, it varies between different things, but you can see there's actually 4 different colours here. The gold one is actually the grounding wire, so we don't really need that one. And the blue wire we don't need either. And the red wire would be the one that would have gone to your right ear, and the green one would have been the one that went to your left ear. So these are the 2 ones we want to put in. Okay, so we want the one wire in here, and then we want the other wire in there. It doesn't matter which way round, because it goes around the coil and comes back either way, so it doesn't really make a difference. So again, we want to tighten the one wire in here and then the one in here. Okay, so this is what we end up with. So I've cut off the other 2 wires, and we've got the one red wire attached to one and the green wire to the other. And if you pull, it shouldn't come loose. If it does come loose, then obviously the signal isn't going to go through the wire and the whole system isn't going to work. Okay, so make sure you tug it to see if it works. And I've done it this way to show you where the red and the green wires are, but ideally you want these wires insulated so that you don't short circuit. So you can wrap tape around there so that they're not exposed like it is at the moment. Okay. And then the next thing you can do from here is you can attach this to an MP3 player or a mobile phone, something that plays music. And then the signal will come through the wire. Okay, and then go all the way round and back out the other end. Okay, so here's our completed product. I've actually put some water in there now because I find that water actually helps with the vibration, and people seem to find that with water versus a crystal that it has a gentler effect. It's definitely a good place to start with if you're not used to scalar fields. I'll just quickly say again about the wire here. So you can see with this headphone wire it is a single wire, and therefore when you cut that single wire there are 4 wires in it. Some headphone wires are split into 2 distinct wires, so it's easier to put one wire in one and one wire in the other, so it's more obvious what to do there. And yeah, it can be a bit confusing having one signal going one way round and one signal going the other way round, and a lot of people question, you know, how is that possible when you connect it to an MP3 player, but it works. So try not to get too confused with that. Okay, so what we've got here now is a spare phone I have here. I would use a normal MP3 player, but ours is recently broken. So we're just going to connect it into a phone here. Okay, so let's go back here. So we've just got a random frequency here on YouTube, and it is playing now. So for those of you who are energy aware, you may have noticed a difference there once I plugged in the phone, and you might not, possibly, if you're not used to tuning into energies at a distance. But that's simply it. We're just using an MP3 player, so phones are more common these days, to send a signal through the coil, and then it goes back round the other way, creating an equal and opposite electromagnetic field, and that which cancels itself out, and that's how you get scalar energy, or 0-point energy if you want to call it that. And you can experiment with different frequencies, different hertz of music to go through the coil. So you're creating different vibrations, different frequencies in the scalar field. Again, a bit of a complex thing to get your head around, but different frequencies do have a different effect. So there you have it, a very basic scalar device. So even though it's very basic, even though the wire wasn't perfect and it did uncoil slightly, and even though we have a bit of an exposed wire here, it's still creating a lovely scalar field here, which is negating negative electromagnetic frequencies within a certain radius. So a very simple and lovely device for you to start playing around and getting ideas on how to build bigger ones, or ones with a wider radius. And of course I can show different videos on that in the future. Okay, any questions, just ask below on the video, and please do like and subscribe to help promote this channel and help promote this video so it can help more people, and I'll speak to you again soon.